You guys ready?
I had a question.
Sure.
Okay, so it says that, okay, that she requires to put a 10% down payment.
Right.
So once she puts that down payment down, would her balance be whatever her loan was, take away the 10%, and that would be remaining the balance?
Yeah, that's the way down payment works, right? So she's starting off at $145,000,
Mm-hmm.
but she's going to put a down payment on, and that, how much is the down payment? You can give it to me as a percent, or you can tell me how to calculate the dollar figure.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I divided the 10% over the 100.
Okay.
Okay.
What do you mean by that? You took
Uh,
10 divided by 100 to get the decimal
yeah.
representation?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. And then you use that to multiply?
Mm-hmm.
So this times this. So this is the down payment.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so when you make a down payment, it just decreases the balance, right? And what you still need to pay.
And then,
And
yeah,
so
that's
then this is what needs to be borrowed. Right? And so that's the answer to the first question
mhm.
is the $130,000. So when you're thinking about this loan, it's not $145,000. It's just the 130,500.
And you would do that for the next problem too. You'll do the 3.45. I did divide it by 100 times 130,500 divided by 12.
Well, that would be how we find the finance charge if we were building that payoff table.
Okay.
But if you look at the question, it actually, that's not what we're doing here. We're doing, well, what would she type in, what would you type into Excel to figure out her monthly payment, essentially? So that's one of the formulas that we worked on. We worked on the PMT formula and we worked on the PV formula. So which one of those would you need for this?
Like I said, I'm like so lost without my notes.
Yeah. Lynn, what do you think? Here's some notes about, this is what PMT is. Does this fit the description? Or should we look at the PV formula?
Mm-hmm.
And remember, these formulas are on your formula sheet. So this is essentially the question for PV. How much can I afford to borrow? And this is what you have for PMT, which is how much money I need to pay per month. So I'm going to go ahead and write those two things down. How much would I pay per month versus how much can I afford to borrow? So based on the information that we've been given in this problem, which one of those two questions is the right one to ask? Okay, great. Got something in my text. So Lynn says PMT. So we do equals PMT. Now this is what I got here. And let's see if it looks good. Okay. How does that look to you, Erica?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Looks pretty good?
Yeah.
Okay. So the first part is the interest rate, but it's monthly. That's why we're dividing by 12. The second part is how many months we're going to do this for. So she's got a 15-year loan. And that means it's going to be 15 times 12 because that's how many months that is. And then this is the amount we're borrowing. Now there is a problem here. And I hope that this number seems high to you. This is a monthly payment. Is Susan going to be paying $37,000 a month? Does that sound right?
No.
Okay, good. So where's the mistake here? Something just minor but important. So remember that in the representation, 3.45 is not the same as 3.45%. Right? These two are different ways we can represent the percentage rate. This is the percentage representation. This is the decimal representation. This is not okay because this actually represents 345%. So if she was paying 345% interest, she'd have to pay $37,000 a month, which is insane. But that's how much it would cost. So what do we change here?
So that's when, so to get that 0.0345, you divide the 100% and you would get that.
3.45 divided by 100, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one option is to write this as a decimal, 0.0345. Okay, now that's a realistic answer. That's a reasonable payment for this situation. I mean, however these payment numbers come out, right? I don't know what your kind of frame of reference is, but you could think of a mortgage payment like a rent payment. It should be in the same ballpark, higher or lower, depending on how much the loan is and what the interest rate is. But, you know, that's like a monthly rent payment. Okay, let's take a look at the next question. How much would she pay total over the lifetime of the loan? Now, this, remember that you would not be able to do this on the test. You're not putting something into Excel. So that's not part of what's happening on the test. The test, I just put that question in there. That's typically not part of this question, but I just put it in there to remind you about how to write PMTs. So you see that in the next part of the question, they actually provide you that number, the 929.72. So how do we take that number and turn it into the total? Because that's the next question. How can we figure out the total paid over the life of the loan?
So the loan was 15, right? It says 15
15
years.
years, that's right.
So you, wouldn't you, so there's 365 days in,
No, no, working too hard. This is about months. We pay every month,
oh, 12 months.
right? So what do we do to figure out the total paid?
Well, then that'd be 180 months.
Yep.
Times the $929.72.
That's right. Because we need to figure out if we pay this amount every month for 180 months, how much is it? I don't know why it's formatting it as a percentage. So that's a reasonable answer from a couple different perspectives. First of all, if I round this up to $1,000 a month, 1,000 times 180 is 180,000. So this makes sense because it's less than that. Another way of thinking about it is it's more than what I borrowed, and that also makes sense because I had to pay interest, so it's not going to be $130,000. Now, the next question gets to the heart of what we're interested in, which is how much is the interest or the cost of the loan is what I'm calling it, and how do we figure out the interest?
You just subtract
Yeah.
what you paid into what the loan is.
Right. So we take this 167,000 and we subtract out what?
The beginning of the balance, which was whatever the loan was.
Right. And what number is that?
Okay, that would be the 1,450. I mean the one, yeah, the 145.
We didn't borrow that much. That was the cost of the house. But then we made a down payment. So we didn't need to borrow $145,000.
Could have been 130. The 130.
Yeah. 130,500. Good. And so that gives me the interest. So this is what I'm calling the cost of the loan. And remember, this is really the big purpose of this financial section is that you can look at a situation and you can analyze how much is the loan going to cost. Because typically that should be part of your consideration, not just do I want to own a home, can I afford to make the monthly payments, but am I willing to pay this price, right? This is the cost of the loan. Am I willing to pay $36,000 for that? And just to connect it back to the payoff, which is that table that we built, you have the month, you have the balance, you have the finance charge, you have the new balance, you have the payment. So start off month 0, or we can start in month 1. Balance is 130,500. How do we calculate the finance charge?
We do the 3.1. I'm sorry, 3.45. And then you times it 100. I mean, divide by 100 times
Okay.
the balance.
Okay.
Times, divided by 12.
Right. All right. And then look at how big that finance charge is. That's typical with a house at the front end. You're paying hundreds of dollars a month in interest. Okay, then the new balance, we take this and we add it to that. The payment we looked at was going to be $929.72. Now, if we do $929.72, put an equal sign in front of that. Then we're almost ready to build our payoff table. Highlight those three. I can autofill all of them. Then I can highlight these four. I can autofill those. This payment is staying the same. That's good. This is going down. That's good. And then from there, I think I'm ready to run it out. So I'll do a couple columns just to make sure it looks good. Yep, things looking good. This is supposed to take 180 months, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna have to go quite a ways down in my table here. I'm looking at the numbers on the left. As they go down, that should be somewhere around where I need to be. A couple more payments. Okay, there it is. So this last payment, I would say, was $929.89 because that's the last number in the table there. And if I paid that much, then I've paid it off. And that's exactly 180 payments. Now, you don't need to do that because you already know it's going to be 180 payments, bada bada boom. But what it's useful for is if you say to yourself, okay, well, I know I've signed up for this loan, but I want to see if I can pay it off faster. Okay, so Erica, pick a number that's a little bit bigger than 929 just so you can try to pay off your loan faster. Doesn't have to be a lot bigger.
1,250.
Okay, that is a considerable higher payment, but yeah, you're putting an extra $300 a month on it. Let's see how much of a difference that makes. Okay, so I'm going to update this column here. Holy Moses. All right, we've already paid it out. We went way over where we needed to be. Okay, so just for reference, right, we paid this off in 125 months. Last payment didn't need to be that big. How many years is 125 months?
Oh, 125 times 12.
How many years is 125 months?
Ten years.
Yeah, it's about 10 years, 10 and a half years. So you saved yourself almost 5 years of payments, right? You got this thing paid off in almost 10 years. And so that's one way that you've saved yourself money. And the other way is, if we look at the sum of all the finance charges, so this is D128, we need to start at D4. So D4 colon D128, that's $25,000 of interest. But compare that to how much we paid originally, right? How much have we saved ourselves? That was the cost of the loan originally, but with my higher payments, that's the cost of the loan. How much money did I save?
Can you go back to the original loan?
Mm-hmm. And again, when you're doing this kind of calculation, feel free to do a lot of rounding here. Like you could just think of that as $37,000. Now you don't have to get an exact answer. We're just talking about what you're saving. So this is $37,000 compared to $25,000, right? So how much money did you save?
About $12,000.
About $12,000, right? That's not nothing to sneeze at. Now, Erica went went big on this. I mean, it's not a double payment, but it's a considerable amount over what she needed to pay. But maybe saving $12,000 is a message that you hear that's like, you know, I can do this. I can pay more. I'm going to try to do it. I'm going to try to stick with it. Now, even if at some point you stopped and you were like, man, I can't do this anymore. I'm going down to $930. You know, even if you only did it for a year, you could still save yourself quite a bit of money by paying more at the front. Let's just see how much that would save us if we just did it for a year. And so again, this is where Excel is helpful, because if I know how to use autofill, I know how to build this table, then I can really look at a lot of different variables and kind of think about how this plays out over time. Okay. So here we are. Still winding down here. So it looks like the last month I only need to pay $178.24. And I pay it off 6 months early. So by just making that commitment for the first year, we saved ourselves half a year of payments. And we also saved about $4,000 of interest. Right? Is that where we came from? Oh, no, maybe $3,000 of interest. So, you know, what this is a tool for you in your life. You make a commitment to a loan, and then you decide, well, I've got a little bit of extra money right now. How would it change things if I put another $100, if I put another $200, right? Then you can vary things and analyze it. These are very difficult math problems. So you're not doing math, essentially. You're using the power of Excel to do the math for you and figure out what would happen in the end. You guys have any questions about that? It's a really important concept, an important tool. I want you to feel comfortable with it. Of course, project 2, I still need to post that video for you, is all about this process, but starting from a point where you don't have a loan. So you're going to use PMT and PV, you're going to do some analysis, and you're going to make it purchased, and then you're going to do 2 of these tables where you basically increase your payment and see how much you save when you do that. It's kind of the concept of project 2.